Hey, what's up, everybody? My name's Eric, and I am part of the Final Cut Pro X editors group on Facebook. And I saw a post from just the other day. Alvaro posted a little bit of frustration with some of new projects and managing media on the Mac hard drive, only having limited space on a Mac hard drive, and what we can do to work around that. So I decided instead of putting out a huge post and typing it all out and having it really hard to understand, I would just get on here and show you guys what I do. I've been using Final Cut Pro X. I was a Final Cut 6 and 7 editor, moved into Final Cut X right in 2012 when it released late that year. So I've been editing about 150-ish projects a year in Final Cut ever since it was created. So let's get into managing media. So the first thing we're going to look at is the movies folder on the desktop. If you guys are editing just off of this Mac HD drive, say you're on a small laptop or something like that, we're going to go to the movies folder. We're going to look at our Untitled project. You should not see this be a really, really big file, or you're going to slow down your machine. Importing your files from the camera card into this Untitled project living on your movies folder is going to fill up your hard drive space, especially if you're only rocking a 500 gig drive. So that's gonna, then when Final Cut does background rendering and does cache and all that stuff, it's gonna really fill up quick. So it's not really advised to do that. If you're cutting something super short, 10-second little intro, and there's one still image with a voiceover under it or something, and I'll show you what I mean by that here. Let's go ahead and open this Untitled project. I have an Untitled library, and once in a great while, I'll do something super small in here. Like I stream on Twitch and YouTube and Facebook, Microsoft Flight Sim. So yesterday, I decided to make an intro graphic where this is literally a still image. I threw a voiceover under it, put a little jet sound under it, and
number 427 to Coffee City.
There we go. Just something cool to just intro my stream with. And obviously that's not gonna weigh my computer down with a bunch of huge 4K files. So I'll cut that real quick. I'm not gonna go to the trouble of making a new library for a still image with a 10-second voiceover. So whenever you have that Untitled folder, if you do happen to have to use this and you don't have any other option, you can manage it by right-clicking Untitled folder in your movies folder, hit Show Package Contents. You're going to go to the date because that's the event. If you have multiple events, you'll have multiple dates in here, and you're going to find in here your render files. That's going to be one thing that can really, really load up if you have background rendering turned on. And then you may also see proxy media or some type of like if you render out to ProRes and do any type of transcoding, it might say transcoded media. I don't do that, so I admittedly don't remember what they call that folder. I think it's transcoded media. I edit what comes out of the camera because my computer is powerful enough to do that. So let's move on. I don't want to make this video a half an hour. So that's kind of what you do if you have to rock the movies folder with the regular library. The way that I do it and the way that I suggest for the most effective way is if you can have two hard drives, have two hard drives. If you cannot, at least do what some of the other people in the comment section said, have a separate external drive. This is a solid state external drive that I have set up. And then you can put on there your different libraries. And I make a new library for every project that I do. So for instance, this was a friend of mine's wedding that I shot. This was another wedding that I shot last year. And the year before, I make new project library or new libraries for everything. Now, I do not import my footage. As you can see, this library is really tiny. I do not import my footage into my libraries because I leave it on the hard drive, and I'll show you how I do that. Because basically, Final Cut's going to take all that media, and it's going to try to duplicate it. There's a little checkbox that you can say leave files in place. A lot of times it still wants to make copies anyway. So there's a little trick that I learned on YouTube years ago about how to leave my media in place for real and not waste the time when you open up a new library and have to sit there and go make lunch while it copies all your media. So I do have other offline backup drives that I use to store copies of my cards. Those things are unplugged when I'm editing. So if something goes wrong and I lose a drive, I still have all my backups. So obviously that's something I also recommend. So if you only have one drive, make a new folder and a new library for each project. If you can afford to have 2 drives like I have here, this is the ultimate way to be effective in Final Cut Pro, in my humble opinion and in my experiences. So I have a library and I've got all my media. So let's look in here. I do YouTube videos on occasion. I do corporate media, so hence the CM, and then wedding cinematography stuff I do, hence the WC. So I keep my media organized by those monikers, if you will. And inside of each one of these, you'll see like these are just, this was a friend of mine's wedding I shot a number of years ago. And I basically have all of my raw footage from each of my camera sources. I've got 3 GH5s that I shoot on. I only used 2 of them that day. This is my DJI Phantom drone. And then I had a GoPro I was trying out that day, the new Hero 9 Black. I've got lav mics, zoom mics, different boundary mics, and line-ins to the DJ board, etc. This can also be done when you're shooting commercial work, same thing, voiceovers, you know, camera A, all the raw cards from a 5-day commercial shoot. And you can see, you know, 4K native and shot in Panasonic's Vlog. So all of my media lives on the media drive. It never moves. The next drive is the library drive. I'll go in here and I'll make a new library for each of the projects I'm working on. So let's go ahead and open up one of those and I will show you how I manage everything. Actually, I'm just going to create a new one for a test to show you how we do it from scratch. So let's open Final Cut Pro. And let's go to Untitled, right click, and close this library. We don't even want that open. We're going to create a new library. I'm going to do that on my library drive right here, library 1. And we're going to put this under YouTube, and we're going to call this FCP Footage Management. There we go. So we have got our new library, and we're going to hit save. So now here's the cool part about leaving footage in place. If you go to Final Cut Pro Preferences, you will see the different preferences. You can, I leave background rendering off all the time. I turn it on if I need it for something, like if I do a stabilization of a clip, I'll turn it on and let it render through. Other than that, I leave it off. And again, I'm on a fairly decent computer. I have a 2018 Mac Mini with 32 gigs of RAM. It's a 6-core. I've got a Radeon RX Vega 64 external graphics card inside of a Razer Core X external graphics box, and it's connected by about a $50 live Thunderbolt 3 cable. I can link some of that if you guys want me to get into that. But this thing has been fantastic so far, so I don't need to render that stuff usually. Under editing, playback, there's our import. So playback, again, I turn background rendering off. Leave files in place. I check this. Sometimes it doesn't work. It still wants to make duplicates sometimes. I don't understand why that is, so I don't really sweat it too much. Here's my workflow. We're going to bring this down a little smaller so I can show you guys. We're going to open up our media drive in a Finder window. We're going to go to this footage right here, YouTube media or corporate media, or let's just do my friend's wedding. Let's go to camera A, and we're going to go inside the folder, and I'm going to literally just attach all these clips. I'm going to select them all, and I'm going to drag them to the event. You're going to see if I try to drag these clips over here and drop them here, it doesn't work. You have to select the event. When you select the event, then you can drag the clips in and drop it. So I'm going to drag these clips in. I'm going to drop them in here. And as you can see, it'll process the files for import. Instantly, you have your files. You can go right to work. And as you can see, 4K log footage, and it is butter smooth. So the next thing I do is right away, I keyword this footage. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to keyword it for Cam A. Boom. Now, under my event, you can see I've got a keyword. Well, I know that I have camera B and camera C, so here's a way that I manage my media also. Let's go into camera B. I'm not going to import all this footage, but I'll show you just for the sake of doing it. We'll right-click right here, make a new keyword collection for camera B, and then we'll leave that highlighted because now when I drop this in from camera B, select all the footage, and we're going to drag these files over here, it's going to go into that keyword because I have that selected, and it's already going to keyword all those clips. So now I have all my footage selected, and we're good to go. And so you can have butter smooth footage inside of Final Cut because you're accessing this off of another external drive. I have solid states for all of my media and my libraries, and that keeps things moving extremely, extremely fast. So let's get rid of this, and then we'll look at a couple other little things. So now that I have my footage into Final Cut is running on my Mac native Macintosh HD drive. The software and the operating system are running off this drive. You don't want anything else to really have to bog down that drive. My library is running off of this drive, so all of my render files and all of my cache files, all of that stuff is getting run to this library drive. My media is getting run and accessed from this media drive. And then finally, my Final Cut backup, I do have going to my movies folder. So if you go into movies folder, you're going to see Final Cut backups. And then once Final Cut makes its first backup, you're going to see that in this movies folder. Those are always really small, so it doesn't matter if those stay there. I do manage those every once in a while by getting rid of some that I don't need. All right, so just a little recap. We have our preferences set at leave files in place. We've got our background rendering turned off. We have managed our project by setting up a new library for this project on a library drive. We've accessed the media where it lives on the media drive, imported it into by dragging and dropping it right into the event, and then keywording it for organization. Here's another little quick tip. Not really anything that has to do with the post, but it was kind of cool. Some people may benefit from this. When you shoot log footage, you can see it's really flat. And when you go over here in the basic tab, there is no, oh, I'm covering up the basic tab. 1 second. Let's turn off my camera here. So in the basic tab right here, you can see that there is no spot for a camera LUT. So you'll want to go to the extended tab, and then that opens up the LUT. You can select the footage that you want to put a LUT on. When you put your LUT on, I use Panasonic because I shoot on GH5s and GH5Ss, and when you put that LUT on, that gives you the ability to access that. So if you've ever tried to find that, that's why. The extended panel is where you're going to see that. Here's another quick tip, and I'm going to do another longer video about this. Multicam video editing is done wrong, in my opinion, by so many people. And everyone wonders why multicam is so much of a pain and so difficult sometimes. I think I'm going to go ahead and put a video together about multi-camera video editing and how I do it. I've been multi-camera video editing, corporate work, and weddings since I started doing video production in 2004. So I got a little bit of experience on the multicam thing, and I think that some of the tricks that I've learned over the years may help some people who are getting into this as new video editors. So one of the other things you're going to want to do is when you bring your camera in and you keyword your footage, when you set up a multicam later, you're going to want to link those all on one track. If I right click all this and I hit a new multicam clip right now, it's going to make a new track for every file because it's not seeing it from different sources. So I've had that happen a few times where I right click and then I have 50 tracks because it sees it all as different cameras. So what you'll want to do is click this, select all your footage, go to camera name, and I'm going to name it Cam A also, and make sure you hit enter. Okay, once you do that, now when you select this footage, you'll see camera B has not been named yet, but if I go to camera A, each one of these clips has that camera name. So when you select all your clips, and then this tells Final Cut through this metadata which camera that these belong to and which track they belong on. So now if I select all of my footage and I right click and I hit a new multicam clip and I say we're going to call this sync, and I'm going to do another video like I said and bring this all into perspective because there are a lot of little tricks that you can do to really set this up correctly. 4K 3840 native resolution 2398. Apple Pro is for my rendering if I do that, and okay. So now when I go into my multicam clip, guess what? All of my clips stay on camera A that were named camera A, and all of my clips stay on camera B that were named camera B. And then you can start linking these files up. I do not use audio for synchronization because, again, that's going to sit there for 5 hours when I know a bunch of this stuff is B-roll that I'm not going to use whatsoever in the actual multicam. So like I know this is the ceremony clip and I know this is a ceremony clip. So I just want to sync those two up. I'm going to make the TV angle here. I'm going to select this piece of footage and I'm going to say sync selection to monitoring angle, and a couple seconds later it's going to line that up beautifully. So I'm again going to elaborate more on this in a full tutorial on multicamming and some of the tricks that I have found to make this easier. So we'll let that go ahead and do its thing just so we can see that it works. There it goes. Look at that. So now when we go through here, we'll open up our multi-camera window and we'll close our clips window, and you can see that this is completely lined up. It's beautiful, and you can even check yourself with a waveform. And I, at the end, again, we'll do this in another video, but I use a clapper at the end as well as a light so that I can make sure that I have all of my stuff synced up properly. So that's gonna about do it for me, guys. I hope that this has helped you. And if you have any other questions, I do read the chats in the Facebook group as often as I can when I'm not working away out here. So peace and love, and we will catch you guys later.